Here is Rachel Donaire. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I hope you guys had an awesome lunch. How do I put this thing in? Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna start this presentation just asking, I think that I pretty much know everyone in this room has had a manager or is looking for one. All right, can you give me a show of hands which boxers if you've had a manager before, if you've looked for one or have worked with one? Can everyone raise their hand who has worked with a manager? Okay. How about ones that are looking for a manager? All right. How about ones that are currently managers now? Are any current managers? Okay. So I put this presentation together to kind of remind us of where we should be as far as managers in this sport. I think that every one of us know that boxing is known for its grit, its glory, and its one-on-one drama inside the ring. But what most people don't see is the chess game that's happening outside of it. And that's where boxing management comes in. Behind every championship belt, there's a manager who negotiated, strategized, and protected that journey. Today, I'm going to break down the role of a boxing manager, what they do, how they shape careers, and why they're just as important as the coach in your corner. Let me take a moment to speak to you personally. If you don't know who I am Rachel Donaire, the manager, strategist, and partner to boxing champion Nonito Donaire. I've had the privilege of standing beside one of boxing's most respected fighters, not just as his wife, but as the person helping shape his path outside the ring. My journey in boxing management wasn't traditional. I didn't come from a background of contracts or sports law. I came from the love, loyalty, and desire to make sure that Nonito always had someone in his corner who would have his best interests in and out of the ring. I learned by doing, I learned by asking questions, by pushing through closed doors and proving that I belonged in rooms where women were often excluded. As Nonito's manager, I've negotiated contracts, made fight decisions, protected his health, built his brand, and stood firm in moments when everyone else told us to back down. I've traveled across the globe with him and sat through the business meetings, absorbed the legal jargon, and studied the politics of this sport just as hard as he studied his opponents. My role goes beyond scheduling fights or handling logistics. I'm the advocate, I'm the protector, I'm the strategist, and I'm the voice reminding him that the legacy is bigger than boxing. Every choice that we make together for our future, our family, and the story that we're still writing. That's what makes our bond so unique. We're not just building a career, we're building something we can be proud of for the rest of our lives. I handle everything from career planning and negotiating deals to media strategy and personal support. I've stepped into the boardrooms and negotiated with promoters, reviewed sponsorship language, and worked hand in hand with medical teams and trainers. Because for me, management isn't just about arranging for the next fight. It's about protecting the person behind the gloves. It's not always easy being a woman in this space. And yes, I've had to challenge the norms. I've had to stand my ground in a male-dominated industry where decisions are often made behind closed doors. I've walked into meetings where I wasn't even expected to speak and left those rooms having made the final decision. So to redefine boxing management to me means to reshape what leadership actually looks like. It means putting the fighter's humanity first. It means being emotionally intelligent, financially sharp, strategically sound, and willing to fight outside the ring for what is right. Redefining boxing management also means recognizing that management is not about control. It's actually about collaboration with your fighter. I don't dictate to Nonito. First of all, probably he wouldn't even listen to me anyway if I tried to dictate to him. But we work together. We're hand in hand as a team, as it should be. That dynamic is what sets us apart, and I believe management should never be about your own ego. It should be about ethics, accountability, and doing what's right for the fighter, even when no one's watching. To me, boxing management is about more than winning the belts. It's about building trust and protecting someone's future. I manage with heart and with vision, because when fighters feel supported and safe, they can give their best, not just in the ring, but also outside in life. This work is deeply personal. I feel management's not as a job, but as a form of service. It's about using every bit of knowledge, intuition, and grit to make sure a fighter reaches their full potential while staying healthy, respected, and secure. Because I think we've all seen what happens when a fighter is used, discarded, and thrown away when their careers are guided by greed rather than care. And I've made it my mission to be different. Every fighter is a person with a story, with a family, and with dreams bigger than a title belt. It matters to me because I've watched the toll this sport can take, physically, emotionally, and financially. And I believe management should be a shield, not just a ladder. And when you manage with empathy, when you lead with ethics, and when you build something sustainable, you don't just build a career, you build a legacy. And that's what drives me every single day. So I'm gonna go over the roles of a boxing manager. Again, like I said, all of the people in this room are in different parts of their careers. So if you don't have a boxing manager, if you're looking for one, or if you have one right now, these are things that you should look for in that individual. You know, boxing's a cruel sport. The highs are incredible. The title wins, the sold out arenas, the international fame, but the lows can also be devastating. And the injuries, the betrayals, the bad deals, and the careers that end far too soon. In this environment, a manager isn't just a business person, but they're a protector and architect, and often the last line of defense between a fighter and irreversible damage. A great manager sees the bigger picture. They protect the fighter's health, manage their reputation, secure fair pay, and think about what happens after the spotlight fades. Without strong management, fighters can be taken advantage of, rushed into dangerous fights for quick cash, signed into contracts that steal their freedom, or left with nothing when the cheers stop. But with the right management, a fighter moves with purpose. Every step is calculated. The matchups, the endorsements, the media narrative, the investments. Management helps build not just the fighter's resume, but their brand, their longevity, and their legacy. All right. This is where the big picture lives, career planning. A manager evaluates the fighter's strengths, weaknesses, age, and marketability, and the potential trajectory. Are we building towards a regional title, a world championship maybe, or maybe even a crossover event? Career planning means that creating a strategy that develops the fighter at the right pace while maximizing their earning potential. A real life example is one of my husband, Nonito Donaire. After losing at the 126 pounds, many would have expected Nonito to stay in the higher weight classes or even retire. But instead, with thoughtful planning and confidence in his experience and skill set, we made the decision to move him down to 118 pounds and enter the World Boxing Super Series. It was a bold move. It was one that went against all conventional thinking, but it ultimately revised his career, and he faced top-tier competitions and proved he still belonged among the elite, reaching the tournament final and delivering one of the most memorable fights of the year against Naoya Inoue. That decision wasn't just about taking a fight. It was about a long-term legacy, smart risk, and building towards that one final powerful chapter in his story. Now, of course, contracts are one of those things that we kind of irk about. We want to see the contracts. We want to make sure we go over the details. And managers are the first line of defense once you receive that contract. They're complex and they're sometimes predatory. A good manager reads the fine print. They negotiate clauses that protect the fighter and understands the value of leverage. It's not just about the purse. It's about rematch clauses, TV rights, promotional obligations, and exit options. There are several red flags that managers must watch for. One of the most common is the hidden contract extension, where a contract auto-renews or locks the fighter into additional fights without clear consent, often triggered by milestones like a title win. Another red flag is exclusive promotional rights that last beyond the term of the contract or force the fighter to relinquish control of their media and likeness rights. Some contracts also contain purse deductions for losses, vague language around injury postponements, or broad arbitration clauses that favor promoters. A great manager gets everything in writing because getting a verbal assurance most of the time is not legally binding, and it's very difficult to prove. A real life example of someone who went above and beyond the contracts is Floyd Mayweather. He took the unusual step of actually buying himself out for $750,000 against Top Rank. That decision gave him full control of his career. No one could tell him who to fight anymore. No one could tell him when, where, what weight. He took full control. Sponsorships and branding are also important for your fighter. Fighters' income doesn't just come from the fights. The endorsements, the public appearances, they're all also important. And the manager needs to take a crucial role in building a marketable image, securing deals that match the fighter's personality and goals. And branding starts with understanding what makes the fighter unique. They help define the identity and find the partnerships that feel authentic. That's one of the biggest things that we need to understand is growing in this sport. Authenticity is one of the biggest things. It's not just the money. If you're going to endorse a product, you need to believe in the product and it needs to align with your branding and your vision because your integrity matters. A strong brand doesn't just attract the money though, it also attracts leverage. A fighter with a loyal fan base and a recognizable persona can negotiate better fight purses, headline bigger cards, and become indispensable to promoters. Managers must help fighters stay visible between fights. I think we all believe that if we're going to continue to try to grow boxing, our fighters, if they only fight once a year, need to be seen more than just once a year. It's more than just being in that ring. And the only way we can do that is making sure that we are booking them for other events and showing their personality to the world so they are not forgotten 9 months out of the year. It's about protecting the brand, talking to your fighter and making sure that he promotes and maintains a consistent messaging and steering clear of controversial affiliations that can hurt their image. Managers should also ensure fighters have access to honest accountants, legal advisors, and financial planners. Mismanagement can leave fighters broke even after $1 million paydays. Education and transparency are critical here. In addition to managing day-to-day finances, one of the smartest financial strategies that a lot of people do not take advantage of is introducing their clients to the use of legal business entities like LLCs. An LLC can provide key advantages. It allows a fighter to separate personal income from business income, and it helps streamline the management of multiple income sources and offers potential tax deductions on travel, training, promotional expenses, and even healthcare. It adds a layer of liability protection, shielding the fighter's personal assets in the case of lawsuits or legal disputes. Equally important is legal oversight. I highly recommend working with a qualified attorney who understands the complexities of boxing and entertainment law, not just a lawyer that you found in the yellow pages. One exceptional legal professional is Lisa Brereton, who has deep experience representing athletes and negotiating on their behalf. Her insight and attention to detail and fighter-first mindset make an invaluable resource for any team. A manager must ensure that the fighter is protected contractually at every level. This includes hiring a qualified attorney with sports and media entertainment law that vets for all the predatory clauses that the manager might have overseen. And it also can also ensure compliance with the state athletic commissions and regulations. They should oversee the creation of the licensing deals, the intellectual properties and protections, and the estate planning tools. They need to stay ahead of compliance issues and taxes, promotional rights, and anti-doping requirements. Of course, two different examples are Mike Tyson, who of course had made over $400 million over the course of his career. Unfortunately, he had filed bankruptcy in 2003 by having a financially mismanagement team and surrounded people who prioritize their own game. Managing the fighter's team is a whole different story that I don't think is actually looked at very, very closely. And I'm talking about the trainers, the corner, the nutritionist, the strength and conditioning coach, and the cutman. These are a lot of people, a lot of different personalities, and they're the core team members that will help your fighter win. That means hiring the right ones and resolving their conflicts, because there is going to be a little fights in the gym that you're going to have to figure out. Keeping their communication clear and ensuring everyone is working in the fighter's best interest. And it's not just about skill, it's about chemistry and trust. They understand the delicate balance between the voices of a fighter's camp. A trainer might push for a riskier strategy. A nutritionist may need to make unpopular changes, and a PR agent might want to book more media than a fighter actually wants to. It's the manager's responsibility to mediate, prioritize, and ensure everyone stays aligned with the fighter's goals and well-being. Nutrition needs to be looked at. That is something that we all need to look at. We need to make sure that our fighters are making and cutting weight appropriately. The WBC does an amazing job of making sure that there are weight check-ins on the 30-day, the 14-day, and the 7-day to ensure that we are not drastically reducing weight for our fighters. You have to consider how Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao maintain one of the boxing's most successful partnerships. The loyalty and the synergy within that team didn't happen by accident. It was a result of careful communication. Communication is key. Similarly, fighters like Tyson Fury have publicly emphasized the importance of his team's mental health advisors and the stability that support system provides. Great managers also recognize when changes are needed. Sometimes a trainer and a fighter relationship has already run its course, and that means there needs to be discussions. There is a discussion of matchmaking and sanctioning bodies. A great manager will understand when you have to navigate timing, risk, and style matchups. That doesn't mean that you don't believe in your fighter. Maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe it's too much of a risk right now. The trajectory of where you're going needs to be the goal. It shouldn't be the first thing in mind just to get the paycheck. Each opponent chosen for what they bring in terms of challenge, ranking, and marketing potential must weigh the pros and cons for every fight. How will this opponent affect our momentum? Is this the right style? Is the reward worth the risk right now? In that is also navigating the sanctioning bodies. The 4 major sanctioning bodies and understanding each of their own sets of rules, their rankings, their structures, and their championship pathways. I have heard one too many YouTube interviews of fighters that do not understand why they are ranked where and when. In addition to this, they need to discuss this and have an open line of communication with their manager if they do not understand it. Talk to your fighter. Tell them why. Explain to them. So there is no angst, there is no misunderstanding, and there is no arguments as to why they are where they are. It means managing expectations, communication, and especially around mandatory defenses, voluntary fights, and unification opportunities. The business of boxing is both, of course, sport and business. That means knowing how to work with the promoters, networks, sponsors, and venues. A manager must understand how revenue is generated, from ticket sales and pay-per-view to international rights and streaming platforms. You have to know how promotional deals work. For example, knowing whether to align with a major promoter like Top Rank or Premier Boxing Champions or to go independent like Mayweather Promotions can significantly affect a fighter's career and income. Promoters help with exposure, but they can also take a cut, so knowing the trade-off is part of your job. Pay-per-view revenue is something that a lot of managers don't understand and fighters haven't figured out. The revenue sharing is another key aspect that they must know to negotiate back-end percentages, minimum guarantees, and bonuses tied to viewership. They can often be more valuable than actually the base purse. A successful fight promotion doesn't just rely on intent, It's about selling a story that connects with fans. And the manager has to help create that public image and narrative. That includes managing press conference, tailoring media appearances, and controlling the fighter's message. Reputation affects drawing power, and drawing power affects earnings. So of course within management, there are challenges that you are gonna face. It's not easy. It's not all rainbows and sunshines and puppy dog tails. There's of course the fighter loyalty. One of the biggest things is when fighters start to get up there, sometimes they start to go away. The strain between fighter and manager becomes extremely more strainful because guess what? You didn't build that foundation. And that's why I keep hacking on the fact that to have loyalty for your fighter in the long run, invest in a relationship. You really are almost married. You want to see them succeed. They want to see you succeed. And the only way is communication and trust. So if you build that loyalty in the beginning, you won't have these issues as a manager. Of course, we can't do anything about the injuries. We're going to try to do our best as managers to make sure that you aren't injured. But an ill-timed injury can sideline a fighter just as they're gaining momentum in their championship run. A good manager must be able to adapt quickly, shifting the schedules around, maintaining a fighter's confidence, and managing fan and promoter expectations. Sometimes a single canceled fight can have ripple effects across the partnerships and future opportunities. Third, there's also burnout. I think a lot of our boxers get exhausted at some time. They're expected to train like machines, market themselves like celebrities, and win like champions. So we also need, again, to communicate and make sure that we're not pushing too hard and hear them when they say they need a mental break. It's okay to take a break. Misreading any of that balance that can lead to poor performance for the night of the fight. And of course, ethical pressure for us is real. Like I was talking about earlier, money or the risk? Is this worth it? There will be moments when a lucrative offer comes in, but deep down you know the matchup isn't right. Maybe the fighter isn't ready. Maybe the opponent's too dangerous right now. Or maybe the contract has a hidden clause and strings. A great manager isn't seduced by short-term gain. They think about what's best for the fighter 5 years down the line. A manager's role isn't just to say yes to every offer. It's to know which risks are worth taking and when the smarter move is to walk away. A great manager is more than a deal maker. They're a strategist, a protector, and an advocate. They must be able to juggle relationships, make tough decisions, and under pressure, stay focused on the fighter's long-term development. They think beyond the next fight. They craft a fighter's journey with intention, weighing the physical, mental, and financial toll of every opportunity. They aren't reactive, they're proactive. They anticipate the problems before they happen and build contingency plans and never stop learning. They know when to push and they know when to protect. They celebrate the wins and absorb the blows. They speak the truth when others are afraid to, and they stand beside their fighter through both triumph and defeat. Above all, they put the fighter first, not the payday, not the politics, and not their own ego. Because in this game, it's easy to get distracted by flash and fast money. But real success, that comes with trust, that comes from strategy, and a relentless commitment to doing what's right. Because a belt lasts a season, but a good name, a smart career, and a healthy retirement, that lasts a lifetime. Thank you so much for your attention and your passion for this sport. Sharing this knowledge, these stories, and this perspective with you means the world to me. I want to give a special thank you to the WBC Women's Summit, a space where women's voices in boxing are amplified and respected, and where the next generation of leaders are being shaped. The summit reminds us that women are not just part of the conversation, and we are helping lead it. I'm proud to be here, proud to contribute, and proud to stand beside so many strong visionary people in this sport. But let me just say this directly to the women in this room and throughout the sport. We are powerful, in case you forgot it. We are power. We are creators. We're nurturers. We're leaders and change makers. We uplift, we protect, and we inspire. Our strength is not how we mimic others, it's in how we bring our full self to the table as women. We can lead with kindness and we can manage with care, and we can still command the respect of this entire industry, because being nurturing and being strong are not opposites. They are partners in power. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.